to another episode of Love Language the Roundtable. Today's topic is, I don't know. It is silence and suffering, physical and sexual abuse in the Black community. And I know the on the I guess you can see that on the link, the actual title. I had to edit it because it was too long, but I hope that y'all can see that that's the title of the show. And thank you. This is just a quick thank you to everybody who has sent encouraging texts and inboxes and messages about the work that we're doing. It was I'll say it again, it was Shama's idea, but I'm grateful that he didn't shy away from that idea and that he reached out to us to help forward that goal and vision. And I think that it's we've seen other organizations talk more about marriage, have a lot more discussions online about it, and so that's good, because a lot of the conversations have been happening in the corner and off to the side, but these are things that are integral to the rebuilding of our nation. We can't have a nation if we can't even have a family, or can't even have peace within the small institutions that we are in. So but thank you to everybody who encourages us, and we still would like to, it's always an open door to anybody who wants to jump on, particularly the women, particularly married couples, to come on and provide, more context and more real life points of view. Like last week, I think it was last week, Kaim jumped on and had his whole household responding when we were talking about children. Those are powerful images for our people to see that we don't all hate each other, we're not all dysfunctional and all of that. So anyway, thank you to everybody that, again, is encouraging us in that. So again, the title today is Silence and Suffering, Physical and Sexual Abuse in the Black Community. And the summary says, in a world where hate is at an all-time high, it is no wonder that physical and sexual abuse is at the center of everyday headlines. But how does this play out in Black communities? What are the root causes of physical and sexual abuse in our households? What role does secrecy play in systematizing this violence? How do we support survivors of physical and sexual abuse? What steps can we take to collectively and individually protect each other from the continuance of these ills? So those are the questions. Of course, we always try to, it don't really happen, but if you have additional questions or thoughts you want to add, we welcome your comments. If you're listening on Facebook, watching on Facebook Live, what up? You can put your comments down. If you want to join, we can send you a link. There's a link always in the details portion of the event that you can click on and join. Yeah, so that's all. So that's the topic for today, and everybody else can just jump on. Oh, we go in order: Shema, Isaiah, Zebulon, Shamika, and I'll go last, so we can just do some initial thoughts about the topic. So I'm muted.
Oh, all right. Can y'all hear me? All right, good. Don't mind me. I was blowing off some steam. I think this is a great topic. I think that, man, we in need of some education, man. Like, for real. I ain't even talking about our platform. I'm talking about in general. I saw a post the other day. Today, and it just made me like, man, I wanted to comment, but it's like it's no point. You know what I'm saying? Our mindsets contributes to a lot of these things too. The conditioning I always speak on, it contributes to it. And what do I mean by that? Like, the topic is silence and suffering. A lot of times we're quiet because of the conditioned mindsets we have, as far as not putting these things out there, not letting it be known, to elders, or elders being men and women, by the way, y'all. Getting it out there to help the individual that might be going through it. These things are, I think, really, really important. And a lot of reasons that it's not being put out there is because of education. When people know that these are things that should be done. We used to be taught a lot that a snitch get stitches. You know what I'm saying? Forget that, man. Those is all, I see you, Zeb. Those is all, we got to reintroduce the right way back to our community. We got to. So with that being said, I can't wait to see like the rest of the questions in regards to it. But just going off of the title itself, I think that a lot of we have to re-educate our community so that these things can start to decrease. And that's all I got to open up.
I guess I'm next, I believe. This, as stated already, a very interesting topic, very necessary, especially when you look at the scope and the climate of this nation and what goes on. Abuse, man, in all areas have deep connections to the mental health aspect as far as PTSD and other related issues. So it's definitely noteworthy that we speak on it and not shy away from these problems, because too many times we do, and then we wind up hearing somebody died, or you know song comes to mind, the Eve song, Love is Blind, um, type of thing pops up. I'm not even sure if that's exactly where their show is going, but it's definitely it's an important conversation. So I'm looking to see also the comments, questions, concerns that people may have. We might even be able to throw out some suggestions for help, because there's a lot of resources out there, especially for women. There's a lot of resources out there that don't always get expressed because nobody speaks on it. So maybe we can be that doorway to providing help for somebody else. So I'm going to yield there and let everyone else speak.
Okay, shalom everybody. Shabbat shalom for that matter. Yeah, it's this is always one of those topics that even some of the best of us don't really like to discuss, because I mean you kind of know what's at the end of that road. It's it's one of those where you're going down that road, you know where it's going to end. You're going to have to open up the closet. You're going to have to look at some things that a lot of us, of course, have been conditioned to sweep under the rug, and sometimes for good reason. Sometimes I think this and I'll probably bring it up during the course of our dialogue here. There's a book, probably one of the most important books that I've ever read in when I was very, very young, that helped me with a lot of psychological issues, things, trauma and things that that I experienced coming up. And it's a book by a psychologist called Jay Martin, and the book is called Who Am I This Time? Who Am I This Time? Uncovering the Fictive Personality. And it talks about how a lot of times when we go through trauma in life, whether it's sexual trauma, physical trauma, social trauma, all manner of trauma, that one of the first line of defenses that we have is to create outer shells. Like, you ever seen those little Russian dolls where you crack one open, then there's another one, you crack that one open, there's another one inside of that one, and we create these shells around us to protect us, because of course historically there hasn't been protection externally. So you have to create these fictive constructs in order to help us shield ourselves, and also to help us navigate in this world that creates the conditions for these levels of violence against women, and also towards men as well. So with that said, yeah, I think this is gonna be a very interesting dialogue, and very touchy, because it's gonna require some closet opening, and some digging, So with that said, I mean, not really much else I can say at this point, because obviously my predecessors already kind of laid it out quite flat. So all I can do is camelback. So with that, I'll yield.
What's the name of that book? And who was it by again?
Oh no, my brother, you got to get your own. Now it's called Who Am I This Time? Uncovering the Fictive Personality.
By Jay Martin. Okay.
I first read this book in 1997, and I must have read this book maybe, I don't know, 50, 60 times since then, like all the way through. I mean, it's one of the most, next to the scriptures and a few other Ben Ami books and stuff. This is probably one of the greatest books that I've ever read that has helped me transform myself. Yeah, I definitely recommend. And I usually don't recommend a lot of stuff outside of the Israelite paradigm, because I'm always very skeptical about, outsiders or whatever like that and their intent for our community. But yeah, this is recommended reading.
When you can you send me a link to it, man? I'm trying to find it on Amazon. I can't find it, but okay.
And I'll send the link to everybody. And I'll yield.
It's my turn. Do I sound muffled at all or low?
A little bit, but it might be me.
Oh, I have new headphones, so they might be.
You sound a little low.
Okay.
Just a little low.
Can you hear me now?
No, we can hear you. Just speak a little louder. That's all.
Oh, okay. Well, this is a very touchy and important topic for me. Because I've been through both. So yeah, it's important to me. And I really I'm wishing my everything is about education, because since my kids can talk, I start to educate them on signs and things to look out for, how people try to trick you, and little stuff like that, how people try to get you comfortable in order to take advantage of you. So I've started that type of education for my children, because nobody did that for me. And I think that as people, as humans, just being here, whether you have had anything done to you or somebody personally, you never know when you may come across somebody who has been a victim of either sexual assault or physical abuse. So therefore, I feel like everybody should seek some sort of education on how to deal with those people. Because when I finally had the courage to speak up, the people that I decided to confide in, either one, did not know how to respond to me, so they said nothing at all but looked at me, or they said the most insensitive thing I ever heard in my life. So it was more like, girl, bye, get over it, ain't that deep type thing. And they didn't handle me with kid gloves, and that's what I needed, because it put it more back on me than anything. So I just feel like everybody should seek some sort of education. You ain't got to go deep into it, but learn how to deal with a victim, because that's very important, because you can put them back in a horrible, horrible place. But yeah, I yield there.
I was over here, amening to everything that you just said, Shamika, about the importance of knowing how to deal with it when it comes up. Being the ear for somebody or the receiver of the information. Because a lot of information is preventative, and it should be. But I don't think that we are, as far as humans, are really equipped to handle the fallout after it happens. I'm not against therapy. I think therapy is amazing, but not everybody is willing to do that. And I think that if anything, we should be able to, if we're going to hold the secrets of our community, we should be able to hold, what happens after the information is released. So, also, Um, we're still doing a 7-minute mark, so I forgot to mention that earlier. I'm not sure, Zebulon, you sleepy, or can you take the time for us? I guess.
Yeah, I could do that. I don't want to be
Okay.
perceived by the community as one of those sluggards in scriptures, a little folding of the hands. So
Little
yeah,
little folding of the hands. Yeah, gotcha. Okay. All
yeah.
right.
I don't want to end up in ruin. So
Okay. So I'm going to add on Kyle and Zaquan. So I'm gonna let them speak. So the order will be Shema, Isaiah, Zebulon, Shamika, and then the household of Zaquan. So hold on a second. Let me unmute myself, and then if y'all want to say some opening words, I'm gonna unmute y'all. Can y'all hear us?
Con.
Okay.
Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom.
Are we opening up or saying something right
Yeah.
now?
Yeah. Only if you want to have some opening thoughts before we get into the actual questions. Up to you, though.
Well, I just want to say, shalom to everyone here. All praises to the Most High for, making it through another week. And, this is a heavy topic, and I'm just, blessed to be here and be a part of this discussion.
I'm excited for it too. It's not something discussed often. And like Shamika was saying, as far as education, we are not really, I know our generation wasn't really taught that. We actually were taught to just be quiet, don't be in grown folks' face. Sometimes stay out of grown folks' face. Sometimes we're taught to even think that things happen because of our actions. Or sometimes it's like, our people our age that's doing, having the sexual abuse or performing sexual abuse or mental abuse or physical abuse on us. So, I mean, it's definitely an education that needs to be brought out. So I'm excited.
Indeed. Okay. So the first question is, and I'm gonna put it in a chat as well. But the first question is, what are the root causes of physical and sexual abuse in our households? And I know that it's abuse is one thing, and there's differences between sexual and physical abuse. So I don't, however you want to speak to the issue, physical or sexual, I'm hoping it'll be transferable either way. But the platform is open because I know, Kyle, you just mentioned mental abuse. So all of that's open as far as to be talked about on the show. So however you feel the spirit move you, that's what we're going to talk about. But again, the first question is, what are the root causes of physical and sexual abuse in our households? And again, we're going to do the 7-minute limitation. So I'm done.
All right, cool. So I'm kind of waiting on the let me see the question in the chat, just so I can go back. Matter of fact, I could have Facebook pulled up. But what are the root? There we go. Thanks. Thought I could. What are the root causes of physical and sexual abuse in our household? I might not even need the whole 7 minutes. I might just need a minute. The root, it goes back to what all of us collectively are continuing to talk about on this show. And it's education, and it starts with husband and wife. Teaching. If we're not putting these things out there at a young age to our children, some of us will forget to bring it out, and then it's like a domino effect. But when you go to the root of that domino effect, I think it all stems back to the husband and the wife, to break the cycle that we're seeing in this cause, in this physical and sexual abuse in the household. Now we're just speaking of the household, because I could go outside of the household and do the sources and stuff like that I believe contributes to it. you know, the conditioning, all that, dealing with the people, the elite that was over us at the time and stuff like that. But in the household, I think it's just education, teaching, presenting good morals, character to the children, so that way they'll have something to kind of measure their actions off of. I mean, at the end of the day, you can't really control what a person ends up being or doing, but if you have that foundation through education and consistency, I think that's the root. That's all I got. I'm gonna yield my 7 minutes with that.
Question.
Yeah.
We are donating something to somebody right now, and I have to run it in the building. So can I give my response right now because it's not that long, and then I can mute for the rest of the time?
Oh yeah.
Okay. So for me in the household, I think it do start from education or not being educated at all, and then I also think that it starts from too much exposure, because for me, it mostly all happened in my household, and um, a person who lives in my household, actually even younger than me, grew up as young as 5 and 6 years old, being very, very sexual, even getting expelled from school and so on and so forth because of these acts. And then like cousins and stuff couldn't spend the night because they would do those things on, to family members. But it was because my household was not for me, when we talk about certain things or do certain things, my kids got to be away. For my household, they will talk about any and everything in front of us. And by my mother being a homosexual, it was always a bunch of gay men in my house, gay women in my house. I'm talking about transsexuals, all these people in my house. So that confused my little brother. He thought it would be okay to be with both different type of people. All this because of what he's seen and what he heard. And he took those things and used those things on other children. So I think it starts in the home. I think you have to educate your kids, and you have to, I don't want to say hide stuff from them, but protect them from certain things. Everything they don't need to know, especially at certain ages. They have to be mentally mature to handle things, and y'all should have been through certain conversations in order for them to be exposed to certain things, because if they don't, they're going to go off what they hearing and what they see, and they're going to apply it to them and to other people, and it ain't right. So for me, it starts with miseducation and too much exposure. And I yield there.
I'm next. Well, that's definitely deep. Um, this is a hard question. Uh, a lot of times, I know we're talking about miseducation and stuff like that, but a lot of times, and even as Shamika alluded to, there's things that happen way in our childhoods, especially when there's an adult um, who chooses to express themselves in a violent and or sexual manner. Um, these things are sometimes other traumatic experiences, like how she mentioned her brother and even herself, I guess to a degree. Um, it's one of those things where there can be multiple elements of a a starting point even before symptoms or actions are displayed. So sometimes things get rooted and buried and covered over a multitude of other things, life, and they seem to have an ugly way of rearing themselves. Um, so when we're looking at the household, it could be something as similar as not simple, but something as small as a trigger which puts people in a regressed state of mind, and they begin to act out in multiple ways. With children, as she said, being too exposed, overexposed, or being exposed without having that education. Um, I think it's up to the parent or, whoever the guardians of that child is to keep them safe and protect them. Um, and oftentimes that does include talking about serious situations. Like tomorrow, I have to go have a conversation with one of my little homies. He's having his first girl problems in school, and we have to go and speak to him on that. And I asked his mom, "Did you have the conversation about sexuality with him yet?" And she's like, "Nah." Then she was like, "I don't want to. I'm gonna leave that for you." Well, she said you, and she mentioned her husband. Um, and I mean that's cool, but it's not necessarily always what's introduced, but how it's introduced. And being guardian, you can kind of control that narrative. And in a lot of cases, before previous previous generations, that wasn't always maintained. Integrity in that aspect wasn't maintained. So we see situations where a lot of things get hushed or swept under the rug, and boy, there's a lot of stories and stuff like that. And it's kind of like people don't know what to do, mismanage the issue, don't confront it, and don't give vindication of justice. A lot of times, because we have this whole, in secrecy thing, or not snitching, or shh, be quiet type of thing, a lot of various aspects of trauma get untreated, not talked about, and it leaves us in positions where we are now, especially when we see what's going on socially with child abuse, abuse of adults, this whole thing with the whole kidnapping and um, um, dare I say sex trafficking. Sorry for any children or adults who don't want their kids to hear these words, but socially, now that it's becoming aware, these things have been going on for forever, and it's good to kind of control how we speak on it. So I know I went on a roundabout way, but when we're looking at the cause, education, mismanagement of education, mismanagement of time, mismanagement of seeking justice and speaking up, um, to me seemed to be a combination or a melting pot of what causes these things to occur. And I'm probably running up on my time. So, uh, okay, I am running up on my time. So I'm going to yield there and allow someone else to go ahead and expound more.
And I think I don't know if we're ever gonna really get outside of what Akshama has laid out from the beginning, and that is about education, about um understanding roots. I mean, because of course, the roots go deep, but no matter how deep the roots go, you'll never be able to circumvent the issue of education. So like um when we look at the culture, like with education, there's culture. And the culture in this society has always been a culture of rape, has always been a culture of physical abuse. It's always been a culture of domestic violence on the deepest levels. It's always been that way. There's never been a point in this time in this country's history in which these things were you know, or just frowned upon. Like, it's always been permissible. Even today, there's still, I mean, think about it. How often do we hear about in colleges about frat parties and stuff like that? And, you know, females, they go to these parties, you know, and, you know, they might be going to have a quote unquote good time. And of course, I don't really condone that culture either, but just saying that, you know, generally they might just be going to have a good time and drinks and just whatever the case may be. But there's a culture in frat, you know, in the frat houses in colleges that, hey, if you're a woman and you come to these parties, you clearly want to get raped. That's part of the deal. You come here, that's what you're gonna get. There's a culture. It's never said, but there's an understanding. Because the first thing you say is, well, hey, it's 12 o'clock at night. Why is she still here? Clearly she wants something. And of course, there can be arguments made along those lines, but it's still a culture that says that you can even make the arguments. The culture says, yeah, you can justify the logic. So this, again, in this society, there's never been a point in time where the culture hasn't been accepted on some level. Now, today, you might see, you know, certain groups of people rising up and saying, hey, we need to change this and whatever. But the fact that you have to fight in the courts to change rape culture and to change domestic violence culture, the fact that you have to fight in courts to change it shows you how deeply ingrained it is. Because it should be an issue like, yeah, why are we being violent? Yes, let's pass laws, let's just do it with the culture. But they're like, well, because if you change the culture, you start pulling the proverbial string on the sweater. You start pulling at the fabric of the society. And part of white patriarchy in this country is attached to domestic violence. That's how it's always been able to maintain is, hey, let me beat her down, and that'll give me allow me to level up if I stomp her to the ground. And of course, like we've always talked about in the past, this is what we have inherited from from our captors. This is what we have been taught. So we come from a culture that now when we're talking about Black people in the crucible of slavery, we've always been told what? When our women are raped, the man is supposed to do what? Be quiet. He cannot react to his woman being raped. If she sees her man being raped by the slave master or being beaten or whatever like that, she can't speak up because she doesn't want to get killed. She doesn't want to get her children killed. So she has to be quiet. Everybody is taught to be quiet and allow the perpetrator to get away with what they're able to get away with. And just like everything else in this society, just like eating ham hocks and all of these different crazy cultural concepts that we inherited, we are taught generation after generation after generation that is how you handle these things. We know that weird uncle that we have in our families that's always been shaky, if he does this or he does that, don't even act like it happened. Just sweep it under the rug and pretend that these things doesn't happen, because this is a culture of silence. We've just inherited it from those who have perpetrated it, and we're passing it on and doing and committing the very same acts and not even knowing why we're doing it half the time. We can chalk it up to frustration. Some people say, oh, the reason why domestic violence happens is because it's frustration. The man might be frustrated or feel that he's less of a man and next to his woman, and the only way that he can control that scenario is to suppress her physically and otherwise. But again, there's root causes, and I think it has to do a lot with the culture. There's a culture that says that yes, it is okay to do these things. Like the sister Shamika said, yes, it is okay to to go in and make these things happen and be quiet about it. Do not speak on it. Sweep it under the rug. There's a culture that tells you to do this and will penalize you if you do come out and want to speak on it. You'll be castigated. If you're a man who's been abused, like Lionel Richie, whatever like that, they'll say, oh, he was abused by his wife. Oh, he's a sissy. And his manhood now comes under further scrutiny. And if you're a woman who's been abused, the first thing they say is what? here she comes. You know, she's a rabble rouser. She's just trying to cause waves or whatever the case. So there's a victim shaming culture as well. So even if you do have the strength to say, you know what, okay, enough of this nonsense. I'm gonna speak. There's repercussions now if you speak up on these things, which makes people want to retreat further and say, you know what, I just rather not speak on it. And then 20, 30 years of going without dealing with these things will fracture a person's psyche. Day after day of dealing with these things and not being able to express it and find some type of closure in it will start to fragment your personality. That's why you have so much psychological issues in the community, because it's a culture of acceptance, silence, and no closure. So it's a hell of a rabbit hole. And I have 8 seconds left, so I will now silence that.
Yeah. So I just a few things about the question about the root cause of physical and sexual abuse. So not to reiterate what anybody said, but the concept of a fragile ego. So I you know, like Shema said, you know, you could have a household that is good and functional and whatnot, and people still choose to, you know, exhibit bad behavior. And I can't speak about sexual abuse. I know it happened in my family, but I'm a victim of domestic violence, so I can only speak on that and what I can see. Perhaps would have been, you know, was the issue just in hindsight. But you know, fragile ego. I think, of course, we always talk about the household, which is always predominantly female because the man is not there or divorced or whatever. But I think that situations like that, you know, at least I say at least with men, I can only imagine what it's like for a man, and I have an example of what it looks like to be a man, you know, in a way that's functional. So, you know, bad examples, you know, perhaps in situations where it's the man abusing the woman, perhaps he just learned it, you know, and vice versa. Perhaps if, you know, if a woman is the abuser, maybe she saw the women, maybe she came from a matriarchal family where the women was just loud and they got their way by, you know, exerting themselves. So I think gender imbalance is an issue, and we talked about that before. And then also not being able to talk about our emotions. I think that's the biggest thing, is that we, you know, as Black people, we can't be seen as weak. Not to each other, not to the stranger. We can't be weak. We ain't got time for it. So I think that constant guarding and constantly being on edge, you know, creates all types of trauma to happen within us, and all types of ways to express that. Because if you're, I can't think what it's called, but when you're constant, it's like being in war. You know what I'm saying? You're constantly on edge. It's the same thing too, and you might not even really literally be in danger, but memories are still with us. And not to get all spiritual, but I do believe that you know, we inherit a lot of the stuff that our forefathers went through, and we carry them with us. Not, well, I wasn't in slavery, but I still feel like that joint is affecting me. You know what I'm saying? And even just beyond that, even in previous, you know, maybe 2-3 generations before, you know, that stuff still matters, because those people who may have dealt with it are still alive. So you even might hear, like back to Shamika's point, you might hear stories of stuff, and just hearing it is traumatic. So we got a lot of work to do, and I think platforms like this is a good opportunity to do so. And I look forward to figuring out additional solutions beyond, you know, things that we can do right now to strengthen each other. So that's all I have to say on that.
Shalom, shalom. Yeah, I just want to say again, it'd be good to go at the end, because y'all be nailing it. Like, y'all make this easy. Just to pick up from where y'all lay out there is all true. But I guess just to sum it up, and from everything I heard, you know, there's a scripture that says, where there's no hedge, the possession is spoiled. So that's what came to my mind. The root would be, you know, we don't have any, there was no one solid in our homes to really just, you know, verify these individuals coming in and out of our house, or, you know, the miseducation came up educate us on these things in particular. They were teaching us wickedness, or showing us those things that they were taught. So it's definitely perpetual. But I think it's just the root of it will be there's no hedge, which again, that scripture summed it up. It said, where there's no hedge, the possession is spoiled. So, my father was supposed to be the hedge, and if he wasn't around, then my mother would have been spoiled, or she would have got off. Another man would have came in the house, raided the refrigerator or whatever. That's just how people do when there's no hedge. The house is gonna come and get pillaged, and then the children is left there, just to go through it as well. So, this is very personal on many levels, and yeah, I think that's my short answer for that.
Yeah. Yeah, I would think that monitoring, like the lack of monitoring parents, whether you're single or you're a married mother or father, I think that we should monitor our children more. As far as like the physical abuse and things, I've had so many, like we moved here from Georgia, but in all of my children's schools, I've always gotten compliments on how involved I am as a parent. And I always thought that was weird, because it's like, how are you not involved? But knowing what these children do on social media and YouTube, or all these things that our children have access to, we don't really know what's happening. My 13-year-old, he has a phone, but I still tell him, unlock your phone so I could go through it. And I'll go through it. I'll spend about an hour reading. I'll be like, babe, look, what you think this is? Like I'll just do stuff like that, because sex is real. Women, young girls are looking for sex, young boys are looking for sex, and it's crazy. And then as far as like jokes, my son, he liked to be joking with his friends, and sometimes they're inappropriate. People get upset, and all we get as parents from teachers and schools is, oh, your son or your daughter is suspended, and then we mad, but we still accept the consequence that was given to our child, because we don't know really. We might believe our child didn't start the fight, but we don't really know what was going on, because we can't we can't witness it. We can't say, no, let me tell you what's going on. My son or my daughter shouldn't be suspended from school, because let me show you this and let me show you that. Like, we don't have that, because we're busy at work. We're busy taking care of children who are not in school, or, we kind of just make ourselves too busy, to monitor our children. And so I think that's unsafe. And as parents, we do have that responsibility to be nosy, to make sure that our children are doing what we teach them. It's good when we hear good reports about our children, but we should still keep that. We shouldn't let that be, okay, I think they good, because they're still children, and there's other children out there who are going to test them and tempt them to make sure that they're knocked off of everything that you taught them. So we have to, until they're married and out your house, that's when we just have to continue to monitor them.
Yeah. So, and that goes back to, there's no hedge. There's
Yeah.
no hedge, so the possession is spoiled. So, you definitely reiterated that. And it's not to say that a lot of people, though there are people out here who don't care, but a lot of people are consumed and busy, distractions, other things. They may be just trying to make a living for their family, and got this babysitter over there, and you don't even know this babysitter, and he did it, or she did it, and he and she do it to both, male and female. So it's just like, those spirits don't have no gender when it comes to ruining, a child or a daughter, anybody for that sake. So that's just, that's it. The hedge, and these conversation discussions we're having is to help, build this community that, we're doing. So we could have some type of, not only, hedge within our own homes, but now we got, brothers and sisters we can go to counsel with, and maybe even, trust way more than just someone in the world to be with our children and things of that nature, because that's where it starts. Once they get the child, then, they grow up and they wax old in that, and unless, the Spirit of the Most High move on them. Like, that's a part of my testimony, just going through it as well, you know, being molested by a babysitter, cousin, all type of stuff. But then as a man or as a boy, I'll take it like it's cool. It just build up a lust demon, and then that just goes from there until the Most High break you. If the Most High break you, there's a lot of people out here haven't been broken, and they still, doing it and perpetuating that. And then, so yeah, I yield there. I yield.
Okay.
All right. Yeah, we're finished. Sweet. Oh, praise.
Well done. I love y'all, and thank you, Zaquan, for being really transparent about that. I think we, it need to be said. It's not just one gender that's being impacted by, all of us are suffering in some way. So I love you for sharing that.
Con. My praise.
So the next question is, and if you're on Facebook, you have thoughts and whatnot. Like I said, we are, you can put your comments in there or questions. I'm gonna try to monitor, or somebody can monitor it, but we see y'all commenting. So the next question is, what role does secret?
I got you.
Oh, okay.
I got you.
Okay, all right, thank you. So the next question is, what role does secrecy play in systematizing this balance? So, yeah, what role does secrecy play in having this thing go to the community not say unannounced, but unrecognized? That's the question.
Okay. I'm gonna try to answer it properly. I got a little confused with the question, but it might. I wanted to add something too, and it kind of goes. You started my time, hopefully, but it kind of goes with what the sister said last about the monitoring. I like the fact that she do the phone thing. I mean, some people be like, these things are too much. No, it's not. Our stats says it all. Even this conversation that we having, if it was okay, or if it was not, if it was too much, or what am I trying to say? If it truly is a problem that someone like her and people like ourselves are doing that much, put it like this. Well, that needs to be done, because all this stuff that's happening, this very topic that we're talking about, is happening because those things are done. Perfect example. Now, it's only one or two people to know this about me. I think actually John Boy know too. But when I was young, something happened to me. And I ain't gonna go into details because I didn't know what the heck was happening. But long story short, it was a guy that was messing with me. And my mom still don't know today. I haven't even told her today, but I didn't know what the heck was going on. I was like literally 4 or something like that. And she did what the sister and the brother was speaking on, you know what I'm saying, working, trying to provide, blah, blah, blah. But if she would have, and this is why I agree with the sister, if she would have like really did background on the family members of the lady who was babysitting me. You know what I'm saying? I know the daughter. I know the daughter's mom. They're cool. The grandma's cool. But the guy, I don't even know who he is. You know what I'm saying? So my point is, these things, if we monitor strongly or stronger, and it won't allow someone like myself to have kept this a secret. You know what I'm saying? If we would have had education, like I spoke on the last part, talking to your children, like, look, is anything happening? Has anything? I talk to my daughter every time because my daughter don't live with me. But you best believe every time she comes over here, whether she's here for a week, whether she's here just for the weekend. My son, he's like, he'll be 4, so he's too young to really understand it. But when he gets her age, I'm bringing this stuff out. I'm asking these questions. My mom wasn't asking those questions, but she didn't know either. You know what I'm saying? Like that goes back to education all the way back when. That's post-traumatic slave syndrome. I hope I'm bringing it into the question. Hopefully, you said systematizing this violence. This is all systematic. It goes back. What Zebulon was talking about. Our slave masters, and I know people hate when I bring this up sometimes, not you all, but some people are like, dude, would you let it go? I can't let it go until it comes into your mind and stay in there. These things happen. They raped they raped us and made it to like it was nothing. You better not tell anyone. These things carry on within us from post-traumatic slave syndrome, all the way to us now. You can pinpoint each subject that we do or we are a part of, well, a lot of subjects, to slavery. Not to say it's not accountability within ourselves, but it's a conditioning. It's like second nature to us, and we don't even know why it's that. We got to get back to the root because it is systematically placed on us, like a lot of things. You know, so that if these things are taught, educated from the beginning, look, you can tell me anything. If anything happens, I'm for you. I have your back. What's going on? Blah, blah, blah. Have these conversations. Like the sister said, let me go through your phone. You're not going to understand why I'm doing this. Mom, it's too much. Or Dad, you're doing too much. Listen to me. I understand right now. You're not going to understand, but I want to show you. Maybe I'll go through it with you while I'm reading it. And I'm showing you these different things that is kind of, you know, to me is inappropriate. To you, it might not be, but I can show you what the aftermath can be from this situation that y'all doing within these texts. So within, you know what I'm saying? So I think that plays a role. I think that the secrecy plays a role because now it's like you don't have anybody to. How many minutes I got left? By the way, sorry. Cool. It plays a role because now you're not talking to someone who has your best interest in heart, your protection in heart, and then now it's depending on if it benefits you or not. Now it's starting to be a part of your daily life. And then now you're passing it down to not only those that you might be authoritative figure towards, if you're a teacher, whatever you might be, but also your children, your family. So it has to stem back with kind of like what the brother and the sister are doing with their family. They're starting, well, they've been married for a while, but it seemed like, I don't know how their family was before them coming together, but they probably started or broke a curse, if it was a curse, not curse, but a cycle, and now they're restarting a more healthy cycle for their family, which will take away from these different things that we're speaking of, the role that secrecy plays in the systematizing. You be using these big words, sis. This violence. I see you. I'm like, dang, I had to read it. Like, I'm gonna say the wrong word, but that's my take. That's all I got, man. And I wanted to put that out there. I know none of y'all know it. John Boy knew because he put a post up a while back, and I had expressed on the post that, you know what I'm saying, a lot of men don't speak on this. Women speak on this. Men don't. And it's because of what's systematically conditioned within us not to put it out. So that's a secrecy right there. So we got to be afraid. We got to be not afraid of expressing these things. And the reason I didn't tell my mom is not because it was more than secrecy. Matter of fact, it was because I didn't want her to feel like she failed or something. You know what I'm saying? Now I probably could sit down and talk to her about it. But she is still, I think I did mention something like this on the show already. Unless it's deja vu. Go ahead, I'm done. But just closing it out, I'm bringing it all back to education again. That's it.
Man, secrecy. Man, all powerful things said. All powerful things said. This is one of them real tough conversations. A lot of times that feeling of, you know, not wanting the parent to feel as though they failed or feel as though they would get in trouble. I know a lot of times, especially with children, um, you know, it's the feeling of not wanting to be in trouble or not wanting to see the victim in trouble or not knowing how to express it or finding the right words. I had posted a link up about some of the signs and risks. That's why it's important as adults that we kind of know our child, and speak on what we see and address it. I like the openness that you guys take. I remember when my little cousins was up with us. Um, there were some things discussed about my family. This issue is really prevalent, and I know I'm probably going to ruffle some feathers saying that out loud, but that's what this show is for. Um, Going through the phones is something that's really important. Um, or even opening up that doorway for trust so the kids can express and show. Um, with adults, we touched on egos and not wanting to appear weak, or even education to know what and where to do, or to feel like, hey, I can handle this on my own. Which in some cases it could be so. Could be so, but uh, that's the problem with secrecy itself. Tamar always mentions that there's no secrets in Israel. She says it a lot actually, and it's kind of a mantra for her. But I think it's definitely, hopefully I'm not over speaking, but I think it's definitely something that needs to be taken into consideration. Even opening this up to anyone, not just the culture that many of us on this show express, feel, and operate through, but all cultures. It's important that we speak up, because that ideal of secrecy in its role, that kind of is what births the the system for violence, or the system for this abuse to happen. Whether it's any type of abuse, it could be mental, sexual, verbal, physical, um, you know, psychological, to some connected over mental. But all of those aspects, the ideal is finding a way to express, or even looking at signs to see where it is expressed, because everything isn't always so easy to speak on at first. But there are, if you want to say symptoms, there are things that happen way before we figure out what that initial situation is. So I know, children acting out, or even adults changing what they normally do throughout the course of the day, because or even with the people who are offenders, you might see them act differently towards another person or a child, or no matter what the form of abuse is, we have telltale signs, and it's important as a community that we watch out for it and not shame that person, because that's kind of what happens with secrecy too. Um, I feel like I would be looked at in this magnitude, so I'm just gonna rock out with it, or I feel as though I can't express this thing because maybe this person is a how you say an authority in some way. So if I say something, then everybody's going to turn against me. So we begin to kind of shame the victim for being a victim. And if we're speaking on rape culture, domestic violence, it's kind of the same. It happens a lot, and the ability to kind of hop over that is key. I know I'm getting in a little bit more than the the role it plays. So if we're talking about secrecy, it plays a major role, and the ideal is to try to avoid it at all cost. You know, sometimes people feel as though if they say something that there's nothing that's going to be done to handle it. Things are going to get brushed under the rug anyway. Um, so the ideal will be, even with that, not saying that we got to persecute everybody before finding out whether something is true or not, but there's a need to kind of act swiftly when handling things of this magnitude. Because far too often we miss the little things, or as Shema says, we are not educated on the little things. So these things go unannounced. And then it takes somebody having a breakdown of some sort before we finally say, oh, this is what's wrong. And it's sad, and it's really, really bad to kind of have to go through that or see that in some ways. But you know, I commend, those who have even talked and expressed, without going into detail, their manner of abuse, and even having the spirit and the wherewithal to kind of confront it. And hopefully this show allows people to then go back and look and think, and if not confront it openly, change that narrative, to maybe confront it in a different way for other generations. So I'm quite sure my time is up, so I'm going to go ahead and yield and let somebody else go.
That's some good. Y'all been having some good timing. That's very non-Israelite of us. We be going in. We have things to talk about. So 5 minutes, 5 regular minutes is an hour for us. So and that's good, because again, when you have things to talk about, you go in, or at least things of substance. So that's no doubt. Yeah, I kind of wanted to go just for for this question. I wanted to kind of go back to what what Shema said earlier, because again, I think he laid out a couple of critical key points, or tent poles for all for this conversation. And one of those other tent poles that he brought forth was that old adage of snitches get stitches. And the funny thing is that, and I think those of us who kind of who came up in the streets at some point, on whatever levels, we know, like, when you think about how the snitch culture, when you see somebody who's in the game, or who is in that particular criminal element, the snitching element is in reference to people who are part of that underworld. That if you snitch, you get stitches. But what happens when a common civilian sees something going on and says, hey, this is wrong? They go to the police. The first thing that most of the old time criminals used to say was like, well, they're not part of us. It's not snitching because they're not criminals. They're civilians. And I think that when you hear people praising the snitching culture, the anti-snitching culture, like don't snitch, that's a criminal mentality. The criminals are the ones who say, if you snitch, you get stitches. It ain't civilians. Civilians are quick to get on the phone and call the police. That's what normal people do. Normal people say, hey, that's criminal. Let me go. In ancient times, there was no such thing as that. If you were out of pocket, for instance, we know the scriptures where it says that if a man rolls up on a woman, whatever, it forces himself on her, and she yells out a scream immediately, like, hey, this damn bastard is whatever, excuse the expression, whatever, but hey, it raises up the cry. No one's gonna say, hey, you're snitching, woman. No, like, no, round him up, bring him to the court, go bring him to the elders, and we're gonna deal with him and make him go away on whatever level, permanently or vacation, but he's going away. There you go. Preferably bigger stones than that. So there's an understanding that type of activity, only criminals justifies silence. Righteous people is like, hey, that is evil. No, you have to go down. Now I get the understanding of, hey, we don't want to get, these outside police, because they come into our communities and they do whatever. I get that, and no doubt, I get that. But amongst ourselves and our communities, again, it goes back to that culture. We're not criminals. Again, Only the criminals are saying, hey, hey, nobody likes a tattletale. Like, and that's where the culture begins. The culture begins when we're telling our children, nobody likes a tattletale. Hey, can you keep a secret? Can you keep a secret? And there's a, let's, do this with the fingers and, whatever like that to say, hey, we'll tell each other secrets and we don't tell secrets. And children, they get older and they keep that mentality that, yes, there's certain things that you don't talk about. You don't speak on certain things. These things are groomed. I think the brother, I see his name on the thing, Del Juan, but I'm trying to remember the brother's Hebrew name.
Zaquan.
Zaquan. I don't know what I was about to call him Cain, but I know that's not Cain. But yeah, Zaquan, where he talked about him and his Isha, his wife. They talk about the grooming process, that from very young, the culture is grooming. From very young, you're being told, don't tattletale, don't be a tattletale, don't tell certain things you don't speak on this. And you get groomed into with the understanding that when you see things that is inappropriate going down, you don't react to it. You just be quiet and turn your face elsewhere and act like it's not happening. But again, these concepts are being put into our heads by a criminal mind. Criminal minds say, when you see something despicable going down, act like it's not happening. And I think that one of the things that we've gotten away from, and obviously by design, like Shema was saying, is that we don't have a current culture that is that immediately exorcises evil out of the community. We don't have that in place where as soon as we find that there's a pedophile amongst us, or that there's a rapist amongst us, or there's a wife, a woman beater, or whatever the case, they're supposed to be taken before taken before elders. And when it is found that they are in fact in violation, they're supposed to be dealt with on some level, whatever that level may be. Again, I come out of a camp that one of the worst things that you could be was a woman beater. And if it was found out that you were beating your wife, brothers would from the camp would go to your house and get the sister into safety and then drag you back down to the camp. And if she testifies and there's other testaments that yes, he is whatever, that brother was getting lashes right there. Well, not on the Shabbat, of course. You can't beat you on the Shabbat. But on the first day, you're going to get lashes. So there was there was an understanding that there are repercussions, and that you can't go and hide behind the secular police. That no, if you are an Israelite and you call yourself a lawkeeper, then yeah, if you are doing these things or you are perpetuating this type of culture, yes, you can be assured that there's going to be swift repercussions. That level of culture has to be instituted on a much larger scale, because a lot of people are being able to escape judgment on these things because they know no one's going to speak. No one's going to step up and say, hey, you evil demon, whatever like that. They know they can escape. And once a person knows that they can escape, they're going to keep doing it. And with that, so yeah, just to wrap up my point, that that again, that's going to be something that I think, that is going to be a reoccurring theme with all of our shows, is the institution of culture. That first, the old culture has to be decimated. We have to decimate the culture, let it be known that no, these things will not be tolerated in our community. And in the spirit of what I call the heart of Nehemiah, we will lay hands on you. You will get hands if you are violating women, or even if you're a woman violating a man or violating boys, whatever like that. You will get it too. Sisters will put hands. So whatever the case, but you're gonna reap what you have sown. That culture has to be reinstituted back in our communities. And with that, I'll keep it moving.
Okay. Speaking of putting hands on people, I'm currently in the process of becoming a vigilante for mothers who do things to their children. and all these other crazy women in the
What did
world.
we just walk into?
I'm just playing. Okay, but seriously, secrecy to me, I'm gonna go through a couple stages. Secrecy is dangerous. Number one, because I know as a child having secrets or as a teenager having secrets, I put myself in a few dangerous situations. So secrecy can be dangerous. And as far as sexual assault goes, secrecy also, for me at least, stem from shame. So I was like confused. I was 11. I was confused and I was ashamed. And it was a woman. I've also went to my mom on other occasions and told her things that her male friends had said to me that was completely inappropriate. Not that I felt that was completely inappropriate, but the way that she brushed it off and was like, girl, type thing, that made me not comfortable to say anything to her about it after it actually happened. And grooming is real. Like, I didn't know anything about grooming. And then as I got older, um, I learned about grooming and I learned what it meant. So when you look back on situations that happen, you realize that I was being groomed this whole time and didn't even know it. This person's kindness and this person, this and that, was all to get me comfortable. So in my house, what I do now is I try to put my kids in a comfortable position to talk to me and to be able to tell me whatever it is. And I talk to them about grooming. I tell them, because I watched a video where a young girl was saying that it started off with like a brush on the leg and the person just like simply like brushed her leg just to see if she would be like, don't do that, like that's inappropriate. And then it went to like a brush on her chest, like little stuff like that, not all in the same day, but over time to see how you would react. And then if you don't react in a certain way, or if you haven't told on that person, then that's what led to her being sexually abused. So I talk to my kids and I tell them different ways people try to groom you. I tell them we don't have secrets in my house. Nobody has secrets. Y'all don't even have secrets amongst each other. Whatever somebody say they're gonna do to me or do to dad or do to the family, don't worry about that, because can't nobody do nothing to me. I can't be hurt by anybody to say they're going to hurt me just to be able to do something wrong to you. So we go over that. And I also have, I call it safety Sundays. And I try to talk to them, and I allow them to tell me anything they want, anything they need to get off their chest, whether it's towards me, each other, or how they feeling emotional. I mean, how their emotions are, things that they may be going through, stuff that they may experience. I let them tell me all of this stuff with no judgment and without them feeling like they could possibly get in trouble for it. So I let them know before every conversation, no matter what you tell me right now, you're not about to get in trouble. I'm not going to judge you. I'm not this, I'm not that. So that they can feel comfortable, like, okay, well, this happened, so I can tell my mom this. So those are ways that I try to eliminate secrets in my house, because secrets are dangerous. And when kids do get touched and stuff like that, if you have not laid a foundation down for them to feel comfortable, if you have not laid a foundation of communication down with them, then they're not going to ever feel comfortable with telling you. It may take years. I still haven't told my mom, and I will never tell her. The first person that I ever told was John. That's the first person I ever told, and I told my aunt. Like even years after that. But I didn't feel comfortable going to any adult in my life. So I want my kids to have that safe space with me, to feel comfortable to come to me and tell me anything, because we got to make it comfortable. We have to communicate with the kids. No, I don't go in depth about sex and stuff like that just yet, but I do talk to them about certain things to try to make everything comfortable. So if somebody touching somewhere they like, ain't nothing wrong with that. It's just because we haven't talked about those body parts, or we haven't talked about what's inappropriate touching and stuff like that. So I think we as parents have to stop being so secretive, and we need to allow our kids the space to not feel like they have to be secretive or feel shame if something happened to them or anything like that. So with that, I yield.
Yeah, all good points. Again, to the question, how do we, oh, that's not the question. What role does secrecy play in systematizing this balance? I think also that it's our desire to protect one another. I think, Zevon, like you brought up, somebody brought up the idea of not wanting to, wanting to keep the person from being like arrested, for example, because I had that happen to me where I was in a situation in my marriage, and also when I was in college, like my two actual real relationships, like they were abusive, and I was saying, I was talking about it and just saying, like, I wonder, what is it about me that I would even attract that? So this is the whole victim thing, but yeah, but I do wonder about myself, like, how did I? Because my father wasn't like that. My father was not aggressive at all. So that's a whole nother sidebar, but just putting it out there. What was I gonna say? Oh, so the desire to protect our loved ones. Oh, okay, from outside authority. So when I was going through it, and imagine we in the walk, so it wasn't like we was, it was going to class. You know what I'm saying? Or had a air quote community around us, and I've heard the similar story. So it wasn't just with me, but the conversation was, you can't leave. You can't get divorced. Like, you don't call the police. I had somebody actually tell me that, don't call the police. You know what I'm saying? It's like, so it's a lot of misinformation, even among so-called believers, people who supposed to, like, you got the Bible with you, like, it's in there. Ain't no secrets in Israel. You know what I'm saying? If you even in the corner whispering about going to follow another God, like, you better say something. Ain't no. I think in DC on the train, they used to have this. They might still have it, but they used to have this, like, audio message that would go, that would say, if you see something, say something. And the bill was talking about, like, if you see a bag in the corner, you're not gonna just walk past the bag. It could be like a bomb, but it's the same kind of thing. We should have mantras in our family, in our households, like, ain't no secrets in Israel. If you are a liar, because it starts with even that, if you are, like, I tell my kids, and I had it. My middle son not so much, but my oldest son, I told him when he was young, like, once you start lying to me, I don't believe nothing you say. So building up integrity and character in them, that you can't lie about even small thing, and then not just that, but encouraging integrity, and keeping vows, and teach them how to, even in the body language, not be able to, like, be deceitful even in your body language. Checking for all those different things. But we also have a skewed idea of what true love looks like. So just back to the initial point I was talking about, as far as not wanting to rat them out or call the police or whatever, that ain't helping them, because they're going to go and do it to somebody else. Like, if they're cruel to you, they're going to be cruel to somebody else. I don't know how we don't understand that. And we're going to have a conversation coming up in a couple of weeks, Most High willing, about courting. Like, because I had a conversation with one of my brothers yesterday, and it's a lot of stuff that has to go to even just determine, to be able to, somebody said it, to be able to, like, Shema, to be able to weed people out. You know what I'm saying? To try to be better. Not that you are ever going to be fully, like, we're not the Most High. We don't have eyes everywhere. But just so we can at least do our part, so that we don't feel guilty if something happens, or feel like we didn't put our all into trying to at least protect our families and ourselves. The other thing I wanted to say too is, we want to maintain the look of our households. So I think historically, Black people, especially in this country, we dress ourselves up on the outside. We, depending on the era, you had on zoot suits or funky gold chains, saying fresh gym shoes or whatever. We're always, like, fixing ourselves up on the outside to cover the rottenness that's inside of us. And so these things things like physical and sexual abuse, you can't even say them because you too busy trying to make sure nobody knows what happens in your household. And people, I've had my elders say stuff like, don't tell nobody, keep it in the house, about just like stupid stuff, not necessarily abuse, but even, lighter issues. So we have this this pride. And, if you're a believer in the book, that's one of the 7 things the Most High hate. You know what I'm saying? A proud look and all that. So, and I was going to give 2 examples. I'm not sure how much time I have, but okay, cool. I'm trying to run through them real quick. So, one example, because I already talked about dressing ourselves up. But there's a show on Netflix called, well, it's on real TV too, but Netflix is real TV. But it's called Greenleaf. And this is an excellent show. For those of you who have not checked it out, please check it out. It's an excellent, excellent commentary on the Black church. And again, the outward appearance is looking shiny and fancy, but the whole household is a mess. And I think that they're a good example of that. But I think that if we are honest with ourselves, we got serious pride issues, even amongst each other. And so we really don't want to be healed. I mean, maybe we should ask ourselves that question too. Do we really want people to know what's going on with us? And then, but that's my commentary on the secrecy.
Hey, before we go forward, can I read some of the, I want to read some of the comments. So, little ways back, Eureka has, she spoke on the post-traumatic slave syndrome by Dr. Joy DeGruy. Please get that book. Speaks on generational trauma from slavery. That's why I got my post-traumatic slave syndrome commenting from. So y'all know, so I'm glad she put that out there for you all. She said, can't be too trusting these days. I would love for us to become that way, but we got a long ways to go before. Then Chaim said, it's too easy for the children to go astray, and the children want these freedoms to do as they propose. Boom. I love that. And I think also in response to that, we allow them to. I think he commented on me. John Boy came in. Shalom, John Boy. I don't know if it's John Boy or if it's Hoodie John here today. But he says, secrets are the best way for evil to roam around undetected. That's true. Chaim came back and said, right, sis. I think it's innately in children to withhold information unless groomed otherwise. Peer pressure is one reason. Somebody said, teach Tamar. I agree, Sister Tamar. We are concerned about how we look outwardly. Yeah, we don't want nobody to, like she said, like we kind of don't want nobody to know, really. Or do we even care? Shaul came on and said, this is the last comment. Being integral, am I saying that right? Should be an everyday meditation practice. That's one for sure thing that'll get you closer to Yah. And that's it.
Okay, Zaquan, y'all can go ahead.
Con. Actually, I'm gonna yield the floor to my wife. I'm gonna let her get this one. All right, you got it.
Okay, so just listening to everybody, I definitely agree with how our children want a certain amount of freedom or respect or whatever, and we like to see them grow up. We like to be like, oh, look at my daughter, she's getting so big, or look at my son, he young man, and all that's cool. But like, as far as secrecy, I think we do have to overcome that system, like the chief was saying. Chief Zebulon, that's what he was saying. I would agree with him, and I think one way that all of us fail to do that is by telling other adults our children's bad behaviors. Like at school or with a babysitter, we'll be like, hey, if he start talking back, just call me, let me know. Or if she start doing this, let me know. And that gives them ammunition to tell them, hey, if you don't want me to tell your parents, then you better listen to me. You better do what I tell you to do because they already told me. And we sitting there talking bad about our children. That's why I always praise my children to other people. I'd be like, oh, my son's smart. He this, he that, he'll help you this. You know, because we don't want to give nobody room to come and destroy our house because that's exactly what they would do. And yeah, it'd be secrets amongst like siblings, like, oh, please don't tell mom I hit you. It was an accident. I'm sorry, don't tell. But that type of secrecy is kind of bond building, you know, between siblings, but it could be dangerous. But that talking to other adults about your children's negative behaviors is very detrimental. It's something that we don't realize that we do. We do it all the time to our aunties, to our cousins, to the teachers, to the babysitters, to the neighbors. You know, we do it just trying to not look a type of way, I think. If you think about it, like we try not to look like we accept this behavior in our child. So we just kind of like put that out there as, you know, something to acknowledge, but it's nothing to acknowledge. It's nothing to highlight, and we definitely have to do better in that area.
Wow. And yeah, wow. Yeah, I'm guilty, you know, even saying certain things about my children, like, yeah, knucklehead. And I may even tell my children too when they leave out and be like, better not act up, boy, I'm gonna get you when you get back. So now, you know, if I already installed that fear in him or whatever, and him acting up, and then we go and tell
somebody to
watch. Yeah, and now they can play off that fear, and here you go. You know, don't tell your parents I'm doing this to you because I'm gonna tell them you. You know what I mean? Like, I ain't even think of it in that perspective. So that, you know,
That is excellent.
I definitely agree with that too. You know, just being careful of how we put our, you know, that's go back into that hedge of protection. Like we protecting them not only physically, but we have to protect them spiritually too. And that's spiritual things is dealing with your words. So, you know, we can't even curse and bless out the same mouth. So, you know, while we talking bad and good about our children, we deal with that. So I guess what I want to say is when it's dealing with secrecy, it's fine to protect, but secrecy is not fine when you're just trying to, you know, avoid being embarrassed, or, you know, if somebody's doing something to you, you need to, you know, it need to come out. And I think, right. And I think, you say that again?
Decency, not secrecy.
Okay. I don't know. I don't know. But I just want to touch what Shamika said though about, you know, opening up her children, allowing them to, you know, speak without judging. I learned something from her today because, you know, you tell me something, I'm like, wait, why would you do that? You know what I mean? So they probably be like, I ain't about to tell dad, you know what I mean? So I like that, you know, that was very humbling, and I like that and implement that as well with our children, just to always be open and allow them to express themselves. And they can say in their heart, you know, I can tell my parents whatever. And now they're gonna leave out with a little more confidence like that too. So, you know, I yield there. You have anything else you want to say?
No, I yield.
Okay, cool. We're done. Thank you.
Yeah, excellent points. I know Isaiah, you wanted to say something, and yep, and if you want to take 2 minutes to respond.
Or somebody in the chat.
Yeah. Real quick. I liked what they said. I just throwing something out there, just to keep thoughts moving forward. But I think the ideal is to form a healthy balance, even when speaking to others who are going to be temporarily raising their kids, or babysitting or whatnot. First, like Shema said, looking into who that person is and even their family and who they're going to allow, know their mannerisms, know their actions, but creating a healthy balance between what you will and won't accept, and having an open forum for communication. So even with my little cousins, when it was up there for the stint that they was with us, we set up an open forum where they can speak about just about anything, pretty much anything, whatever was on their mind. Now, of course, there was open criticism, you know, so they can know, okay, this is what's accepted, this is what is not accepted. But they felt comfortable enough to speak, but knew if they did something wrong, you know, there would be repercussions for it. In different settings, you don't never want to blend them because that creates confusion for a child. But that would be the ideal, creating that balance. So I like Shamika's idea of having a chance to sit down and just be able to speak openly. But even if it's sharing whatever secrets or whatnot, or things that are more personal, maybe it's a matter of this is what I will and won't accept for my child, but make sure before they walk out the door, they already know that, so they can understand what's bad behavior with they're being treated in a certain way, or something's being expressed or imposed on them, so they can say, hey, mom, pops, this is what's going on and I didn't feel comfortable. So open communication is always, in my opinion, is always the start of that. And they get a handle on, okay, this is how I'm not supposed to act outside. So you don't necessarily have to go off the bat and say, hey, if my kids are doing X, Y, and Z, then threaten them with calling me. But if it is that route, then your kids can know also, well, if X, Y, and Z is done to me, I know I got, as you said, a hedge, somebody that's going to offer a buffer of protection, so it don't go on any further and I don't have to feel ashamed or worried or bothered. So that's it. I don't know if I took up too much time, but I just wanted to go ahead and throw that in there.
Oh, can I respond real quick? So with that open communication that we give to the kids when we have that sit down and let them freely say what they want to tell us, me and John, then we rebuttal or we respond with I want to call it a Q&A. So I asked them, you know, okay, you did this, you did that. Now, do you think this was right? Do you know what I'm saying? I get their perspective and then we also advise them, but without them feeling like, without them feeling ashamed or in trouble. So whatever wrong or whatever it was that they expressed to us, we give them sound advice and of course we let them know, you know, that was wrong, or if it was wrong, you know, you shouldn't do this, so next time operate in this manner and not that one. So we do, you know, give them that sound advice, but we just don't scold them, so that they would, you know, feel comfortable with continuously coming to us. But that's it.
But when the other days come, y'all get it in. No, I'm playing.
That's a fact.
But now on Shabbat, now on Saturday. No, not on Saturday.
When the sun go down, we be tallying them up when the sun go down. Like, you get 3, you get 4.
They gonna catch on to that. They gonna be like, I ain't telling them nothing. They gonna wait till the sun go down.
Yeah, that sounds like new doctrine there.
Shema, did you want to read that question or no?
Oh, yeah, appreciate you.
Yeah.
Hold on. And then, like everybody, man, if y'all want to answer it, little 30-second, minute tops, you know, because I think he asking for everybody, I'm guessing. He says, how do we determine what we as adults should discuss with our children? Tamar commented, so I'll let her speak up piece, but, you know, I guess I answer the question for me real quick. How do we determine what we as adults should discuss with our children? I want to steal Tamar's answer, but I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to say, man, it depends. I go off, it's a variable thing with me. Y'all know I'm a variable guy, so it just depends. I got to look at the subject, situation, the age, their already built up character, their maturity. That's my answer, I guess.
Can you read the question one more time? Appreciate
How do we determine what we as adults should discuss with our children? I'll copy and paste it and put it in the web name too.
Kai, great answer. Great answer. All right.
Am I next? I think I'm next. I'm talking now, so I'm just gonna go. Sorry if I skipped over.
Well, so just for clarity, we're asking a question. Somebody asked a question, and so are we gonna do 7 minutes for this, or are we gonna do? I think it should be a short because I want to get to this last question.
1 minute.
1 minute. Okay, yeah. So the question is again, how do we determine what we as adults should discuss with our children? And it'll be a minute.
Yeah,
I'm not gonna respond because I typed my answer in already, so I'm not gonna say nothing about it.
I got it. It wasn't gonna take that long. I was just gonna piggyback off of what Shemai actually said. I'm not sure what your answer was because it's not popping up on my screen. But at the same regard, with that all being said, understanding your kids, we always talk about know your wife or whatever, in that sense. And a few shows we actually kind of went into how deep that goes. But it's the same thing with your children. You gotta know, and building up communication and a rapport with them to get you to know how they act, move, and what they do. I remember it was with situations when I was a kid. My moms would be like, "I already know what you did and what you didn't do because I know you." Right? My pops or whoever was the adult. So I would say that is a determining factor because once you know them, you can gauge what they're built for. Just like how we was talking about the safety, your kid is only good to make that phone call to 911. Your other kid maybe can help round them up and get them out the house. So knowing that is first, and age factor. Also looking back at your life, when did things happen to you, or even people you know of, so you can say, okay, this is a threat at this age level, so this is what I can expound on, and continue to have that conversation so you can build them up to a level where they're ready. And I'll yield there.
Man, I don't know at this point if there's really much else that I can offer to that, because I think it really boils down to like Shema said, like Yeshayahu said, it really has to do with your children and on the level that your children, what they are able to perceive, what you're able to express to them, and how they're able to react to it. Like for instance, like with my son, like I've already began the process of conditioning him that when there is any type of inappropriate touching or anything, like if he's in school and his teacher, touches him, or like, maybe on the shoulder or whatever, I have him like, yo, if any type of touching goes on below your belly, you immediately, he knows, he has a little shoulder con move where he can just grab that person's, that wrist and be like, no, do not touch me, and scream it out loud, do not touch me there. So that he immediately, like, no one's gonna go below his belly, because there's no reason to go below a child's belly for any kind of contact, unless you're talking about the parents or whatever like that. Outside of that, there's no reason. So he already knows. So I gauge that by certain little scenarios when it comes to, like, with his homework, certain things I can talk to him about that he immediately gets, because he'll have questions. He'll be like, hey, well, Abba, what do you think about this? And that lets me know, okay, these things are ruminating in his head. So I know I can add some more things to his head, like, okay, here's some more information, or here's some whatever. It's child to child. I don't think that there's any monolithic cookie cutter answer. Like Shema said, it really depends on where your child is and how that child is able to receive that information or whatever. So that's really all I can say about it. It's just a matter of, you do what works for you in your household with your children, and you just do it to the best of your ability, of course, within the confines of Torah instruction, for those of us who keep the Torah. So
I would like to add, if it's not a problem, because I agree 100% with everything from Shammai all the way up to Chief. But I guess dealing with certain topics, it wouldn't be what you say, but how you say it, just choosing your words wise. won't use certain vulgar terms, but you know, here boys got privates and girls got secrets. Keep your secret a secret, and what you do in private, that's your business. You know, that's how we talk on that particular matter with them. And I think you can start with those particular terms at a very young age because they know, you know, they going to the bathroom, they using, you know, certain things, and we just keep it private and secret. So with that being said, just choice words, wisdom and discernment. Okay.
So I agree with everybody, especially everything that Shema said. But for me, like I don't think, as far as like intercourse goes, I don't really go into depth with my kids. But I think for me, I go as stuff come up. So if they ask questions, I answer the questions, but in a manner of the age of the person who's asking me can understand. Or if stuff come up in the world, period. I might see something on the news, in a movie, they may see something. And so I have those discussions, but for each age, because I got 7 if people don't know. For each age group, the conversation kind of varies. It's different. So with my oldest son, he get more to detail. With my youngest children, I kind of, dumb it down a little bit. My son want to know about my oldest son. He's starting to like girls and stuff like that. So we have a different conversation with him about girls. Whereas my 6-year-old a couple weeks ago came and asked me, how does he find a wife? And so that, yeah. So that
Tell them
conversation
to
was,
tune in December 7th, all about courting.
so that conversation with him was like different and more childish than it would have been with my older son. So for me, I talk to everybody about the same topics, but the depth of those topics vary, by age. So yeah.
Thank y'all. And then Kaim said thank y'all for everybody's responses. And again, thank you for everybody that's joining. And those who are joining us for the first time live, hey, we see y'all. Appreciate it. And definitely share the video because I think it should continue after this 2-hour period that we're going to hear. It shouldn't stop, won't stop, can't stop. So share the video and then even continue to engage with us on the comment section. We'll be able to go back and have even more conversation. So I said conversation 5 times and stop saying conversation. So last question, because the other question I think we kind of touched on a little bit, but the last question is, how do we support survivors of physical and sexual abuse? So now we get into the healing and solutions. How do we support survivors of physical and sexual abuse? And anything you want to offer, please do.
So I guess it's my turn. Real simple. Nothing simple, but a simple answer. One, education. I'm gonna keep saying that. I think there are certain people that teach. There are certain people that know how to bring forth information that can help people in those situations. And then you have to have listeners. Sincere listeners, I would say, like those that won't make you feel as though what you're bringing forth is, belittling what you're trying to bring out to them. So, I mean, my answer really is education. How do we support survivors of physical and sexual abuse? Education and great listeners. And I know they got like support groups and things of that nature, but I'm just big on education, man. And that's about it for me. But you're speaking more so on survivors. Survivors. I would say just being a true community. I know this is off topic, but like in Tamar's case, she has boys. I remember one of the topics was talking about being able to reach out to other men to help. Shoot, even be able to give some manly advice to the boys, perhaps. So with that same concept, I want to bring that for the survivors. You know what I'm saying? We need people that's there, that's truly there, not just, hey, I know what you're going through, or hey, I'm sorry, and just listening, and then you don't hear from them anymore. So we need consistency. People that's within the community that's consistently there for those that's in these type of trauma situations. And then also could educate them as to why, if they don't know, and then they can probably be prominent in the community as well to help others not probably become victims of these situations. That's it.
Shema said education like 10 times, so I'm not going to go. Yeah, I had to get you, bro. I had to get you, even though this is a serious topic. So all seriousness, education is kind of, in my opinion, hand in hand with what I'm about to say. I think it starts off with, as you said, providing a community that is not going to bring forth judgment and shame first. Um, Especially for the victim, more so for the victim. The people who often do these crimes are victims at one point. So in that at one point, and I think being able to cut this off as early as possible is a key um, to getting help from more people. So when we're talking about survivors, letting them know that even just because they talk about it once does not mean that that trauma is now gone. So being aware of that, and I inside the chat there was a host of different links and stuff that I provided to help learn what risk factors are, see some things that you can do, surveys that you can take. I know they change from various state to state. Becoming familiar with that and providing those areas of channels of escape for people. Survivors often often don't know that they're surviving while they're surviving. So being able to be a support system is big, or just having that community where. So that, along with education, I would say, is the key to kind of knowing to try to help support them. Everything isn't always financial, but you know, sometimes just passing a word of knowledge can greatly, deeply impact somebody. So being willing to be there and are willing enough to know where it can't be you but somebody else. So even foregoing, to asking them to go get help professionally, and showing them where that professional help is, and um, being I guess you can say a support system for that. So helping them walk through those steps to dealing with their trauma, because that's what the nature of surviving is, being able to deal and having that ability to deal being prolonged, so you don't see anything like self-harm or some of these other very traumatic situations that can be expressed, or even so that person doesn't then go and pushes that or imposes that on somebody else's life. Because when you see these type of traumas, there's always, not always, but there's in a lot of cases there's a history of that person was abused in some various way, physically, sexually, and they then go and repeat that because they don't know or recognize any other ways. So um, just being there, and I'm going to yield there. I don't want to ramble.
And this it's interesting with this particular question, because I don't know. I'm sure everybody on here is familiar with brother Sar Shemuel, down in Georgia. He does the not just martial arts, but just martial art training, defense training for women and children. We've been having conversations. Recently, we had a conversation about revamping efforts of establishing in Israel the Beit Din, and this is something that I was already pushing about 10 years ago. But of course, at that time, certain camps weren't to the point where they can have those type of next level discussions about accountability. But I think that one of the reasons why you have a lot of silence in the Israelite community, and this also is how you support the survivors of physical and sexual abuse. They have to feel as that not only is there repercussions for these type of activities, but that there is a culture that's going to be built that is going to prevent any further actions such as that. So, for instance, I'll give you a brief example. There was a time, this was before the internet age, this is mid 90s or whatever. You had individuals who would perpetrate certain certain acts, whether it's against women or whether it's against children or whoever it was, and they would escape accountability by just simply going to another camp. Like, okay, you know what? This camp already knows how I get down, so you know what? I'm gonna leave ISUPK and I'll just go over here and slide to House of David, or I'll slide over here to this camp, or I'll slide over here to that camp, whatever. And they just go from camp to camp to camp to camp. As one sister used to call it, they more hopping, whatever, just whatever. And so part of that problem is that at that time was that you could actually circumvent being held accountable for your actions by just simply transferring your loyalty from one camp to another. And then now you're in that camp, and if there's no unity amongst the camps, you might go to that camp and say, hey, yo, you're harboring a damn woman beater, or you're harboring a whatever. And they're like, well, we don't know about that. And besides, we don't deal with your camp anyway, so we're not at liberty to tell you anything. And so, you see what I'm saying? And so, like, there was that, that kind of diplomatic immunity, so to speak, where they can now hide behind this camp or hide behind this organization and escape judgment. But now, of course, a lot of that, those walls are now being broken down. And I think that when people, especially, like I said, whoever the victim might be, men, women, children, whatever, when they see that a culture is being constructed that will no longer allow these things to happen, and no matter what camp you go to, there will be a Beit Din composed of all of the camp leaders wherever they're at, so you cannot hide. If we know that you're over here beating women, or if you're over here molesting this and whatever like that, no, you will be found. If you're IUIC, they be like, hey, listen, hey, you ain't gonna find no respite here. Brethren, this dude is over here trying to hide amongst us. He put on the purple and blue garment. He thinks he's gonna hide behind. No. And give him up, or give her up, or whatever the case. So I think one of the things with that we're going to be implementing with that Beit Din is so that we plant these concepts into people's mind, in the victim's mind, that the culture is going to change. It's one thing to catch somebody and deal with them. But if the culture is still the same, it's just going to keep repeating. Nothing ever changes. You'll just remove. It's sort of like the war on drugs. Okay, just because you get Nino Brown off the block doesn't mean that the drug war is over. The culture's still there. And it's the same thing with with physical, sexual abuse, domestic violence. Once you change the culture and you implement very strict and stringent repercussions for that type of conduct, then people who are dealing with who are surviving these things and dealing with the after effects of that abuse, they know that they're in a community now that's going to foster healing, because they no longer tolerate the actions. Nobody can hide, whatever. So I think I think for me at least, that's the best way that we can support survivors of physical and sexual abuse. is not just like everybody else said. Is to create these, like Shema said, not just yeah, I feel what you're going through, yeah, whatever, and then you never hear from them again. But knowing that there is a community who has a culture now, an anti domestic violence culture. Once you have that implemented, the person now feels good. They feel like, okay, cool. You know what? Now I can express these thoughts. I can go and tell other people about what I went through and what I've experienced. Because number one, there's not going to be any shaming. They're not going to shame the victim. There's not going to be any repercussions for speaking the truth. And again, there's a culture that is going to eradicate anybody who is in violation of that. I think that's the best way to show the survivors of physical and sexual abuse support, is knowing that the culture is going to stop the perpetuation of these events and not just simply remove individuals from the situation. The entire culture has to be uprooted and replaced with something that's Torah functional.
So I agree with Chief, because one of the things that I was actually going to say is provide protection. Figure out how to provide protection for that person, because after going through something like that, the only thing you want to do is feel safe. So I think we should, one, provide protection so that people have somebody to go to, but we also need to provide the knowledge of protection so that they can protect themselves. I think that we have to not be dismissive, no matter how many times it comes up, because as a victim, you never know when your trigger's going to occur or how or what's going to bring them up. So no matter if they came to you 100 times about it already and they come to you for the 101 time and they're crying again, but you cannot be dismissive, because this is something that they can't shake. And if it's that deep, then you also have to be that friend, like you said, not be that one-time listener, but see if you can go to meetings with them or get them into something, get them to talk to somebody if they haven't already talked to someone, so that they can break the cycle, because 9 times out of 10 hurt people hurt people. So you got to get them out of that space to put them in a better space for themselves and for their families to come, or whatever. But I think we just have to not be dismissive. And as a victims, it may be hard, but victims have to also have discernment and learn how to protect their peace, because you cannot open up to everyone, because you might not get the response that you're looking for or the comfort that you're looking for in every person. So you have to seek wise counsel when you go to certain people. And I think those are important things for victims to know and for supporters to know. And that's all I got. But I do agree with what everybody else said as well.
All praises.
Yeah, and so I'm just thinking about, sorry. Okay. The idea of the baked bean, right? There are people, I'm just gonna say this because Kaim put a comment about it's too much division within Israel, and I agree, but there are a lot of people having this conversation, and I don't know if I can say who these people are. I'm not sure if I'm sworn to secrecy, but it's people that exist. I just hope that this platform will allow people to see one another and then start the work, because somebody got to start it. Like, we can keep saying, and I know we don't harm by this, Kaim, so I hope you're not taking my little aggression as aggression, but rather passion. There are people who want to do the work, and they see through the BS and they're willing to do it. So I'm hoping, like I said, that this platform allows people to see one another and link up, and so we can get something got to give. So what's I gonna say? Oh yes. So how do we support survivors of physical and sexual abuse? I would say, definitely expressing empathy, but without judgment. So empathy is the ability to take on somebody's hurt and pain, and internalize it. It's not for everybody, but I think that if you are an empath, you naturally do that. If somebody's hurting, you listen to them and you feel some kind of way about how they're feeling. And as a result of that, then you're able to be gentle with them and not judge them. Also, I would say, I think Shema said, listening, right? Being an active listener. If somebody's telling you something, you don't have to respond with a solution. Sometimes they just want somebody to talk to get it out their head. And then with you being powerful, with you being silent is you showing power. I think years ago, one of my teachers said that, like after somebody passes away, right? The thing to do is just to go and sit next to them. You ain't got to have no long conversation about nothing. Just be in their presence, because they even just physical presence is healing in that. And also, I think this is already said, but following up after that, after the confession, and actually developing relationships. So people are all, oh sis, oh bro, I'm so sorry this thing happened, and you don't hear from them no more. But I mean, true community has to be, you have to feel like their hurt is your hurt. And if they're not okay, how we all gonna be okay? We have to develop those mindsets where we do care for one another. And I mean, for real, not some fabricated care for each other, but that we don't want nobody else to suffer, especially because we've all suffered. We might not have all experienced abuse, but we've all felt some kind of way and been disappointed and being let down and being hurt. So even just that's a natural thing, and so we should be able to make it a habit. I did. My husband, he used to do it. He's called people all the time. What I started doing was, well, my mother-in-law, my auntie kind of started it. But we do a check-in text every morning, good morning. And then me and my brother and my nephew started doing it. And then we like, good morning. Then another brother I know, I'm texting him, good morning. Then it's like a woman I work with who's a white woman, I'm like, good morning. You know what I'm saying? Because our people period, because I don't believe in, I love Black people, but I feel like all of us, humanity is in crisis. So whatever connection you can create with people and be useful and encouraging, that's our responsibility while we're on the earth. Also, ripping the veil of secrecy, right? So it's not about waiting for somebody else to move forward, even with the baked bean or whatever, like tell, right? And I know that's not, everybody's not ready to speak up about abuse or things that have happened, but I'll just say for me, right? The more I said what happened, the more liberated I felt. And now I tell anybody, I meet somebody on the street, hey, guess what happened to me back in the day, right? And then when you start to do that, people are empowered by your ability to speak up. So even if you do it and are willing to go first as an example, so that people can look at you and say, dang, she did it, or he did it, or they was bold enough to say it, maybe I should do the same thing. And then now ain't no secrecy, because somebody gonna tell. And now the culture will begin to change. And also the last thing is to destigmatize about therapy. I love therapy. I went to it once. I didn't continue, but if I had a therapist right now in my back pocket, I would pull him or her out and say, hey, let's have a conversation. Probably sit him on my desk or something. He probably sit on my desk and look at me and rub my back as I told him what was going on. So, but we do need to stop being so ashamed of stuff like that. And that goes back to the original comment about being so concerned with the outside. We spend all day doing our hair, buying all this fancy stuff, putting on makeup or whatever, but we ain't looking at the inside, and those things continue. And we have to think about our children, if we have children, or people that's coming up after us. If we can't be transparent, then you can't expect them to tell the truth on nothing. So that's all.
I got something to say. We done with the questions?
Well, Zaquan didn't go.
Oh shoot, my bad. I want to.
How dare you?
The comment though. Is that okay with can I comment real quick?
Zaquan, that's okay? Yeah. Okay.
All right, real quick, man. For those that's wondering, because we got some Hebrew scholars up in here that be forgetting to tell the audience what these words be meaning. You know what I'm saying? Myself included. He turned his head. Y'all can't see what we see. But I was saying we should tell them what Beit Din means, house of judgment in a sense. Basically house of judgment. And what I wanted to put out there is this, because the brother Chaim, I think it was, said there's so many divisions amongst us. When people say that, and he's factual, he's saying the truth. First thing I bring people to is America, United States. So many different religions, so many different differences, but they have statutes, laws, and ordinances in place that everybody got to follow. So it's not hard. What we need to do is what Tamar just said. I don't know if she was saying it to what I'm going to say, but we just got to start it. We got to get people that are not going to worry about the doctrinal differences. Oh, I believe in New Testament. You don't believe in New Testament. I believe, bro. We need to come to a common ground. Because I would honestly, that's the last thing I'm going to say, because y'all made me think of this. I would love to be closer to y'all. I would love to be closer to like-minded people that are like on this show. I love all our brothers and sisters, but I would like to, I'm sorry, I just got the message. I would like to figure out a way in my lifetime, bro. I don't want to do it in a later lifetime. Like, you know what I'm saying? Y'all all saying about Hoodie John. I would love to be by Hoodie John. You know what I'm saying? Me and Yes Yahoo and Chief Zebulon by ourselves out here. You know what I'm saying? I'm in Chicago by myself. Well, Montgomery, Illinois. He up in Jersey somewhere by himself, I think. Then Chief in like North Carolina, South Carolina. Anybody out there? South Carolina. So it's like, my whole point of saying this is, I don't think it's hard as we making it. I know people have failed, but now I feel like all blessings to those before us and praises to the Most High for using them before us. We see their failures and their successes. We should take heed to them things and try to come together, because I would love to be by y'all, man. Then we have people that can do what Tamar might, well, she speaks on a lot. Well, she might need women that's like her. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's all I got, man. I just wanted to throw that in because I really would love for us to do that. And it's not hard to come up with laws. You know what I'm saying? We have people that we bring in that are like-minded. I don't care if you believe in the New Testament and or not, or believe in only the Old Testament and or believe in the New. You know what I'm saying? We got to start from a cultural standpoint first. You know what I'm saying? That other stuff, it's important. It's important. I get it. But that's what's killing us. That's why America and every other country or whatever established, they're good because they put that first. And then, we're allowing the doctrinal differences to hurt us. We all believe in the Most High. That's all I got, man.
And that's why I've said on many occasions when people come with that whole the division stuff, and it's legitimate gripes. But my thing is this: whether you believe, like you said, whether you believe in the New Testament or not, or you believe in this, or whatever, do we agree with Ecclesiastes 12:13? That's it. Do we agree that let us hear the conclusion of the matter? Fear the Most High, keep His commandments, for that is the all of man, or the whole duty of man. Do we agree with that? If we agree with that, then we've already eradicated 90% of the problem. Now we can move forward in our own respective understandings, but we have those major tent poles that we could say, regardless of what you believe over here and over here, do we agree with the commandments and serving the Most High and loving the Most High and reverencing Him? We agree? Hallelujah, or praise the High, or whichever one. Now let's move. And that's what so I just wanted to put that out there. Now we got a brother Zaquan.
All right, we got it. Shalom. Yeah, I want to be in on what Chief and the other brother in Georgia in on, because that's excellent. Me and a partner up here, he not even in the truth, but he conscious. We grew up together and we used to fight a lot in school. So we kind of already, we know each other, but now that we older and mature, we on grown things, and I spoke on this a little bit, but it's called Rise, Training, and Defense. Same thing with the brother doing out in Georgia, educating, brothers, sisters, everything, and actually getting out here in the community. And like we got these whistles we want to give out to children, so on and so forth. I don't want to go into great detail, but you know, our nation, right now, we are scattered, but we can still treat it like a franchise. You know, if you got McDonald's all around the United States, they all ain't touching each other. But if you know, once the system is implemented, and then if, you know, you hit start on it, it will propel itself. And ultimately, that'll go back into what the question is that, you know, people will feel more, you know, victims. I think they'll heal faster if they know they have a whole community and tribe behind them that's supporting them. And this man that did, or a woman that did it, she ain't just dipping it. You know how a snake do. They gonna slither up under a rock, you know. So if they know they can't get up on, you know, get away with it, they'll be more inclined to speak about it. They'll have more confidence to speak against it, and you know, and their healing process will be quicker. On us, on the other hand, you know, somebody been dependent on their level of abuse, you know, it's a very sensitive thing. So you want to deal with it sensitively, knowing that, you know, either you gonna get 2 reactions or 3, but I'm just gonna speak on 2. You know, people gonna cry out to the Most High for you, you know, for your wickedness, or they're gonna glorify the Most High for your righteousness. So, you know, you either gonna get one or the other. So dealing with somebody who's going through that, you know, it's sensitive, and you may be in thoughtful, but you may not be helpful. So, you know, it's just I don't know. You just have to deal with people as they come, but and where they at, right? You want to come in a little bit more, you know, but and where they at, and again with a community, and you know, us brothers getting together and trying to protect the community. You know, sisters on the back end is, helping us meet these goals. Whereas now, you know, if it's a sister and she need to get around other sisters, you know, as a brother, I'm going to point her in that direction versus me trying to, you know, just be the only one catering her. I'm going to send her to somewhere where she can, and, other people who may have went through these things can share their testimonies and help this healing process go quicker, and also encourage them, as well, that, and this be hard to say, but it's the truth. We go through a lot of things to testify to other people who may be going through those things. So, but it'd be hard to tell somebody that when they're going through it, so just discernment and wisdom again, and just ultimately just showing love. I think Tamar said just sitting there so they know they're not alone. All those things will come into effect, and if you really care, it'll be natural, how you deal with people going through things. So
it could be natural, but it could be tiresome too.
Yeah,
because you could deal with people, and sometimes your flesh get involved, and you'll be like, you know what, I'm sick and tired of telling this person the same thing. I understand, sis, or I understand, bro, but when we victims of something, we can't see the light. We cannot see light. It's like always an excuse or always a reason, and always like hopelessness. And so, I mean, someone who the Most High already took through that and has a testimony will empathize, but also get a little frustrated, because we don't get frustrated at the victim. We get frustrated at the attack that they're under, because they can't see that this is just an attack. That's it. That you're expected to overcome this, that you're expected to do better. And you can't see that, and I'm mad. Like, if I could fight this for you, I'll do it again.
That's hard to measure, though.
Yeah,
that's hard to measure, because it could take people years. I think the community thing is the biggest thing, because if you got one person saying it, cool. You got two, the matter is established.
Right.
So it's like the more people who are there to say, hey, you can get through this, you can get through this, the better it is, because I do understand what you're saying, just on, personal note, dealing with people who may be struggling with things. It's like, again, and if I ain't mistaken, I think we got power to tread over certain things,
right.
Snakes and scorpions alike, but, misery loves company. So, it's a hard thing. I'm definitely going to meditate on it more.
Yeah,
but as far as my role in the community is concerned, I do want to get out here more and make the community more involved and accountable for just how we deal with our, children getting on the buses, and those sisters being more aware of what they can do. in the situations where they are, may be under abuse or whatever. And I don't want to just, my name Delwan Fields on Facebook. So I mean, if you feel like you want to say anything, you can reach out to me. I don't want to put it on a love language like that, but I do try to make myself available for certain things, because when we speak on things, it's the first start of healing. So I yield, because I know we done reached the time a little bit past it. But
Hey, real quick, you know what? All of y'all been calling this brother Zakan, and I've been looking at his name on him. I'm like, Joe, why are they calling him Zakan? And it was throwing me off, because that's why I was confused, Tamar. I don't know if you remember last week. I was like, man, wait, he don't want to live here, or he the one? Because I was looking to your name on here. So I'm gonna call you Zakan. Now I know who it is. Cool. Because I'm like, why are they?
Hey, my name, my Shalom, y'all, but we ain't gonna get into all that. I got many names. But what it said in Revelation, he got many names, but I need to be zealous and to repent and just, stay focused. But yeah,
right.
Facebook won't let me change my government. So, but everybody know me as Zaquan. So, Khan. Nice to
Whatever name you go by, let me know. That's what I'm gonna call you.
Zaquan is fine, big.
All right.
All right.
Yeah, and that's how I met him. I didn't know who Delwan was, but hey, Zaquan. So thank you everybody for coming on and for contributing and for sharing your testimonies and all that. Again, share the video, continue to comment on it. If you can have a conversation in your houses and your communities about it, that would be amazing. Again, we're taking a brief break next Shabbat, but then we'll be back most high on December 7th, and we're gonna be talking about courting. Yeah, man. Yeah. Talking about courting. So anyways, grace, peace to everybody. We love you, and continue to have a happy Sabbath.